Hi guys. So a couple of days ago, I recorded this video in which I talked about the big changes that are coming to the online GMAT around that 8th of April timeframe. I was super excited about it. Why? Because they're now making the online GMAT same as the instant to GMAT. And in most aspects, you get to see your score right away. You essentially get to choose your section order. You get the break. So super exciting news. And in that video, I promised that I'm going to record a video with some best practices as to how to ensure that your internet connection, a thing that a lot of you are worried about, stays solid during the course. So this video is about that. Now, first of all, I want to talk about something that I discovered over here. I was doing my research for this, that if you're taking the test before the 8th of April, you will be using one system, the Pearson VUE system, to take the test. If you're taking the test post 8th of April or on or after 8th of April, you'll be using the GMAT system. So if you're taking the test before the 8th of April, if you click on this, and this is the MBA.com website, you go to the on view. This is where you'd be clicking on the on view and downloading it. But if you click on this link over here, system test for exams on or after 8th of April, you'd get to GMAT. GMAT is a leading provider of proctored online tests. In my opinion, much more established than OnView. So I'm hoping that the experience there would be a lot more smooth. But you can really see it tests everything over here. The entire experience seems to be a lot more quick. By the way, just to set some context over here, GMAT raised about $90 million. A big chunk of it was raised last year post when COVID set in. So they are investing in their online proctoring. So good news, exciting news. I think there's going to be a lot more stable experience for many of you. That's what I expect overall. So doing those bare minimum tests is important. That's the first step. Always do these bare minimum tests. But beyond this, how do you ensure that you still have a flawless experience? So to talk about this, I'm going to just set some context. A lot of us use Wi-Fi. From a background standpoint, I'm a wireless guy. I began my career working for Nokia, and even prior to starting my first job at Nokia Research, I was into wireless. I made my first radio when I was in seventh grade. And I'll tell you, I do not trust wireless technology. So as someone who knows wireless, who's done channel modeling in wireless, I know it's a very fickle environment, so I don't trust wireless technology. Some of the best practices, the first best practice that I would recommend is that if you can get a wired connection to your laptop, definitely get that wired connection to their laptop. I'm assuming that you have an internet coming to your house, so you have a cable coming to your house, and then you're distributing internet from there. Don't go wireless if you can get a wired connection to your laptop. If you cannot get a wired connection to your laptop, then do the following test. So you do this bare minimum test, which is there on this page. But in addition to that, get onto a Zoom meeting, an hour-long Zoom meeting, but where you have just two people in there. Okay, because when you have two people in a Zoom meeting and your video is being shared, you're using about 1 to 1 megabits of uplink, which is kind of what we need over here. Also, it says 1.5. I think one should do, and if you can sustain that meeting for that hour long, I think congratulations, your internet connection can take it. So that's kind of my first litmus test over there. If you have to work on wireless, that is. The second litmus test, if you have to work on wireless, is make sure that your router and your laptop use a wireless standard called 802.11.AC. So it's the AC standard. What happens with the AC standard, or AX, which is Wi-Fi 6, the reason why I recommend these two standards is that they maintain two active connections with your router, and I think much more stable in my opinion overall. If you've a laptop which is a couple of years old, I think most likely it'll have it's going to be the AC standard. If your router is a year older, so it should be the AC standard if it's a reasonably good router. Again, I'm very picky about routers over there. So that's the second piece. Make sure you have an AC standard or a Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 6 is very new. Very few of you would have it, but AC has been there for about 3 years now. The third thing, ensure that there's a line of sight between the router and your computer. Now, wireless as a channel is a very noisy channel, and it may work fine for an hour, but something might happen, and the channel might get disrupted for about 5 seconds, and the connection might reconnect again. So you might not see your laptop disconnecting from your router, but it happens all the time if there is no line of sight. And um, and and, and so especially when the test is about 3.5 hours long, you don't want that connection to be disrupted. So if you have line of sight, the likelihood of that connection going down because of the wireless piece is going to reduce tremendously, because you won't have any obstruction between the router and your computer. Um, the last piece, if you've got to use wireless, is make sure you reboot your router, a day or so before the test. Now, wireless is fickle, not just in with regards to the medium, which is the wireless transmissions. Your routers have these things called amplifiers that actually amplify the wireless signal, your routers are like mini computers, so they also have cache and RAM over there. And you want to make sure the way you restart your computer every day, you don't need to restart your router because it doesn't run that many processes, but as you go and visit websites, that cache and that RAM starts to get filled up. And if you restart your router a day before that, you know that you'll have enough headroom in the RAM that your router has. It's just a good practice. We host 4 or 5 webinars sometimes every week, and I make it a practice to restart my router every week. And I have a very expensive router. I said I'm a wireless guy. I'm always tinkering with technology, but even then I restart my router every week. So just a day before the exam, make sure you restart your router, and that should ensure that that you're good to go with regards to the test, that you have a very low likelihood that the wireless connection by itself would disrupt it. One last piece, when you are taking the test, ask your friends, your roommates, your family members to not use the internet if possible. Why? Because you don't want to overload that router. So these are some best practices. This is something that we recommend to people within e-GMAT when they take the test. This is what we recommend to people within e-GMAT when they conduct a session. So follow these best practices, and your likelihood of getting having a really good experience when you're taking the online GMAT, that's going to go up. By the way, when you think about taking the in-center test, the reason they have it, in my opinion, they have Ethernet connections right to the computer. So that's kind of, they get around that wireless problem. So that's the network stability that you get. But if you follow these best practices based on the stats that I have seen from students, there's a very high likelihood that you won't face any network issues while taking the test, even when on Wi-Fi. Okay. So hopefully this helped. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to help in whatever capacity I can. Thank you and happy learning.